I'm increasingly convinced that the top administration officials are going to have to be perp walked if we are going to get any real accountability here. Now, this is not lock them up without due process stuff before everybody gets what was that phrase Scott Jennings used? Before you get your knickers in a twist, I am not suggesting that due process is denied to anybody, but let me zoom out and kind of explain what I mean here. This is bigger than one shooting. This is bigger than one city. This is bigger than like a chaotic couple of weeks or months of raids. Fundamentally, this is a question of, is there accountability at the top? The ICE deployments are not random events. They're not accidents. These are policy choices made by Trump and his top officials. You don't flood cities with heavily armed federal agents and escalate confrontations in civilian spaces and then act shocked when people get killed. It is the foreseeable outcome of militarizing immigration enforcement and turning it into a political spectacle, which is now backfiring significantly. This is where people like Greg Bovino and Kristi Noem come in. They are not commentators. They're not random surrogates. They are running operations. They are defending them. They're justifying the tactics. Bovino, before he was demoted, was out there throwing CS gas canisters, struggling to open them, by the way, but throwing CS gas canisters. Kristi Noem has participated in these raids, sort of superficially, right, for optics, but she's there. She's out there. She knows what's going on. And when the state kills people as a result of policy, responsibility doesn't stop with the person who pulled the trigger. Now, you might be laughing and saying, David, even the person who pulled the trigger isn't being held responsible. And of course, for now, that is true. But my point is that there's a chain of command. It's basic rule of law thinking. There is a chain of command. It is not just one person. If investigations show criminal misconduct, these people should be subpoenaed. They should be investigated. They should be charged if appropriate. And yeah, they should be perp walked. Now, we've done this before, and other democracies have done this before. After Watergate, it wasn't just low-level staffers. Nixon's top aides went to prison. H.R. Haldeman, John Ehrlichman, John Mitchell. The message was simple. Power doesn't immunize you from consequences. After the Iraq War torture scandal, not as good of an example, but you had military officers and intelligence officers who were investigated. Some were court-martialed, and I believe that there were some convictions. It was not nearly enough accountability, whatever it was, and my memory is not perfect of it. It was at least a recognition that just following orders isn't a defense, and I think that that's an important thing. In South Korea, we talked about this on the bonus show, presidents and top officials have gone to prison for corruption and abuse of power. It's taken seriously. In France, former presidents and prime ministers have been prosecuted and convicted. In Brazil, top political leaders have been jailed in these anti-corruption investigations. In Germany, after reunification, East German officials were prosecuted for state violence and for border killings. That sounds familiar. In my birth country of Argentina and the neighboring Chile, military leaders were eventually prosecuted for dictatorship-era crimes. This is what semi-functional systems do. They treat state power as something that requires accountability rather than a loyalty test. For Trump, it's just a loyalty test. That's all that really matters. If we had an administration that truly respected democracy, Republicans would be screaming about, we need tribunals and we need handcuffs. And they would be running graphics with mugshots and chanting, lock them up. So I think we need to be consistent. You don't get to militarize immigration enforcement, flood communities with federal agents, normalize lethal force in civilian settings, and then kind of shrug and get to move on. If Trump's administration is setting policy that predictably leads to civilian deaths, which is what happened, it has to be investigated at the highest level. And if it stems from top officials encouraging reckless tactics, which we believe it does, lying about events, which they're doing all the time, obstructing accountability, which they're doing all the time, you need to start with the subpoenas, with the indictments, and with the trials. If they're acquitted, cool. I don't want to lock up anybody unless they actually are found guilty or take a plea. But we need to have that. And this is not about revenge politics. This is just a very basic principle. A government that harms people has to answer for it. That's the principle. The alternative is what happens in authoritarian systems. The people at the top are protected. Everybody else is sacrificed. And they treat civilian deaths as acceptable collateral damage, and they move on and they dare you to complain or protest. We can't do that. It's not American. We cannot let Trump's top officials off the hook because accountability is inconvenient politically right now, or because the news cycle moves on. As a starting point for this, Democrats need to take the House in November. That it's like a mere tiny little starting point. If wrongdoing happened, we got to drag the people responsible into hearings. And then if there are criminal referrals, we drag them into courtrooms and we do it in the public record. Not because we love it, not because it makes us feel good about the country, but it makes us feel worse if they go with impunity. So while I wouldn't go, it's so awesome that we have so many top officials that need to be indicted. No, but it would be good if those who deserve to be indicted get indicted, because otherwise we have no accountability whatsoever. Thanks for watching. Check out another one of our videos and make sure to subscribe so YouTube keeps our content in your feed. And if you prefer audio, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple.